I'll just give you a quick look at the dyno plot. So down here we've got power, and this is torque. So you can see the torque's peaking at and welcome to this volkswizard video. Now, regular viewers to my channel will know that back in February I bought this Audi A2 TDI from Audi UK as a replacement for my Volkswagen Up GTI. From the beginning it was always a plan to have it remapped because I wanted a little bit more power, just to make it more of a match for my GTI, and there was no doubt where I was going to get that work done. It was here at Stealth Racing in Warwickshire. They've been remapping these cars for many years and they've got one of the best reputations on the Audi A2 forum. The idea is to increase the torque a bit, give it a bit more power, make it rev a bit more freely, and even actually make it even better on fuel than the standard map. So, without any further ado, let's get this Audi A2 remapped. Okay guys, here we are behind the wheel of the A2 TDI. Now the car's still running its standard 75 horsepower map, which doesn't sound that great, does it? 75 horsepower when the Up GTI had 115, that's almost half as much again. But the reason this car still is quite enjoyable to drive in the real world is that it's got 195 Newton metre of torque, which is only slightly less than the 200 Newton metres in the Up GTI, and the car weighs pretty much the same. So yeah, it's still got a lot of in-gear performance. The big problem though is that it's a turbo diesel and those peak figures aren't around for very long, so you find yourself getting to the only about halfway up the rev range in the Up GTI, and you have to change gear to continue accelerating in the A2 TDI, so it's a bit laborious. I'm hoping the map will make the car a bit more free revving. If I drop down into third at 3000 RPM, but as it approaches 4 it sort of tails off, and then if you change into fourth it's back to 3000, and now it's even in fourth. It's finding it hard to pull through, but it's getting there. But it's not exactly enthusiastic, nothing like the Up GTI, which is a frisky little ball of fun. I don't think this car will ever be like that, but I'm hoping the map will give the car a pretty decent turn of speed. So anyway, I better get back to Stealth Racing and let Vince do his magic on the rolling road. Here I am in the workshop at Stealth Racing, and as you can see the A2 is now on the rollers being strapped down to keep all its mighty power from making it jump out of the dyno. First thing we're going to do is give it a run on the rollers, see what the baseline power is and see if it's running okay as it is, because if there are problems we'd have to abort and fix them and come back and remap it at a later date. So hopefully everything will be alright. So off they go with this dyno run, let's see what happens. Okay, that's the baseline run done then, and the figures are actually pretty good for a standard car. So we've got 82 horsepower standard up from 75, and we've got 225 Newton meters of torque. That's up from 195, that's quite a lot more. But PD diesels tend to run a bit higher, and all dynos will be slightly different, but that's a pretty good start. So let's see what Vince can do, giving us a bit more power and torque. The new map's on the car, and just to see if it's running clean, we're just going to have a look at the extraction here and see what's coming out. bit of smoke that time. But is it too much? So that's quite a good run then, apparently. Okay, while Vince is having a tweak with my map, I thought I'd come into their reception and tell you a little bit about Stealth Racing. So they're based here in Southam in Warwickshire, just off the M40, just up the road from Banbury. And they're a Volkswagen Audi specialist. They'll do any sort of servicing and repairs to Volkswagen Group cars, but they do tend to specialise a lot in Corrados and, as you can imagine, Audi A2s. Now the reason I brought my A2 here is because back in the day, Vince's partner bought an A2 if he had an F3 stolen from his house and he wanted something a bit more lower profile, and naturally he thought, how can I make it a bit faster? So they remapped it and then told everybody on the A2 forum, and they all went crazy for Vince's remap. So I think he was doing about 3 a week back in the day. It's slowed down to about 1 every 3 months now, just because Vince has done nearly all of them. Obviously my car's been kept in a collection with Audi UK, so it's not been in the wild, but if it had, I'm sure it would have come here and had a remap. But clearly, judging by the standard 82 horsepower, it's never been remapped before. So yeah, that's why I brought my car here. The beauty of getting Vince to do it is that it's a custom map. Every car's built differently, every car's used differently. 15 years later, they'll all be different, and you need a map that suits your particular car. The beauty of what Vince has done is that he can tweak the figures of the map to suit my car, so it's not overly smoky and it's just a happy map for the car, and that's why I brought it here. And that's why I'm quite happy to have my car remapped. There are cheaper options, but I really wouldn't entertain them on a car that I have to use daily and depend upon, and I'm actually quite precious over. So yeah, let's go and see how Vince is getting on with the map now. I've just come out here because it's a little bit quieter, but this should be the final run now. So Vince is around the back checking the smoke. Dion's on the dyno with my car now, just about to run it up. Okay, job's a good one then. So that final run then was pretty good. It's kept the power up over the previous slightly smoky one, but it's not producing half as much smoke outside, so I think we found the sweet spot for this particular engine. They're all different, and that's the beauty of custom remapping. I get the map that's best suited to my car, and I use Vince's expertise to the fullest. So I'll just give you a quick look at the dyno plot. So down here we've got power, and this is torque. So you can see the torque's peaking at 200 and something Newton meters, so 280 Newton meters. That's up from standard 195, which is actually a bit higher anyway. So standard here was 225. So the car was overpower when it came in. It's now gone up from 225 to 281. Horsepower, which is what everybody likes, but really has less of an effect on the way this kind of car drives, came in at 82, so slightly overpower from the 75, and now it's on 107. So that relates to the map down here, so we can see 100 there, horsepower, and peaking here at about 3,500 RPM, so it should be a sweeter drive, I think. If you look at the torque peak, it's peaking now at 2,200, which I think is pretty much where it was before, but the peak torque previously was here at 2,250 RPM, which would have been that figure, 225. We've now got 225 Newton meters all the way, a minimum of 225 Newton meters all the way up to 3,500. So that should be a lot nicer to drive. Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's go and test drive my A2 TDI with a Stealth Racing remap. Okay guys, here we are behind the wheel of my Audi A2 TDI, now with the Stealth Racing remap. So I've enjoyed driving this car over the past couple of months that I've had it. I must have done, because I've done about a couple of thousand miles in it. And yeah, I love everything about it, apart from the fact that driving it can be a bit laborious because of the lack of power. It takes a lot of mental energy to get it, drive it safely really, because there's just so little response. Had the remap option not been there, I probably would have sold it, because I just didn't enjoy driving it that much. That's great on the motorway, but there's roads like this where it's just a bit of a drag, and yeah, I've been looking forward to this day for a long time, is what I'm trying to say. So I'll just give you a demonstration of what it will do. I've had a little drive of it before just to get a feel for it, and it is significantly different. So if we're in second gear now, it's a very short second, so even though we're just 20 miles an hour, it's still about 2,000 revs, but anyway. Much stronger kick, and it doesn't really give up. Well, it doesn't even give up at 4,000 RPM, it's going to go into the red line, so that's a totally different, because at 3.5 it was tapering off, and the mid-range is significantly stronger now. It does kind of encourage you to play around with the gearbox a bit more. So let's just turn around and do that again. So second gear, there's a bit of lag, but then 2,000 it takes off and keeps on going to 4,000 into third, and takes it back to 3,000 RPM. And yeah, it's good. I always think cars should have an adequate amount of power. There's a level where the power is just enough for it to be enjoyable to drive and not too laborious, and this car was just beneath that, and now I think it's just gone past that, and it's a pleasure to drive. You know, normally I'd have changed to third, then that's fourth, and it's just picking up and going and going and going. It now reminds me of something lots of you will have driven, and that's a Mark IV Golf GT TDI PD 130. So they were 130 horsepower, a little bit heavier. This is about 108 now, I think, but the car's lighter. So it's similar to that in its response, and they never felt disappointing to drive. Okay, they wouldn't rev out that well, but they never felt slow, and I think that's how this car feels now, and I think that's as much as I can really accept. So for a few £100 that this remap's costing, it's kind of transformed the car into a car that I will enjoy driving all the time now. The past couple of months with it have been great, but I always knew this would transform it, and I'm not disappointed at all. Okay guys, I hope you've enjoyed this volkswizard video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, please comment, please share, please subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one soon.